Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mike, and as the title suggests, we're going on a deep dive into the NH35, or in this case really it's an NH38, but that's kind of almost irrelevant because it's still the basic movement. So what is the hype about the NH series of Seiko movements? They're in every micro brand under the sun and they've been around for quite a long time, and I am a massive fan of Seiko, as many of you will know if you've been watching the channel a long time, but I've been stuck in the 70s and I've only ever took apart one NH35 movement, and I can't even really remember it. It was a few years ago now, but they're now starting to get into that cycle of they're needing a service. And what I've got on the bench today is from my friend's Vario. This was a customer of Vario's. He's got a problem with the watch where it hasn't got its power reserve, basically. Now, I've already been inside, had a look, found a little bit of fluff that shouldn't be there, which is possibly causing the issue. But just to be on the safe side, figured I'll just strip the whole watch down. We'll have a look at the movement. I can talk to you about it as we take it apart, the similarities between this and all its predecessors, basically. And then we'll put it in the cleaning machine and we'll rebuild it and see what it's going to run like then. So without further ado, let's cut to the bench, start taking it apart. Let's just quickly show you the dial on the watch because it's beautiful. This is the Empire by Vario. It's all Art Deco inspired, sort of Empire State Building, as you can kind of see it on the back cover there. Very nice, blued hands, skeletonized, no loom. Love that sort of guilloche type dial. Yeah, really nice. Of course, we're interested in what's inside. Just figured I'd quickly show you that. So let's get it on the scope. And the dials on these are friction fit, and usually you can just use the hand lever tool just to get them going, and there we go, it comes off. Okay, I realise it's a bit of a disappointment that it is the NH38 because you haven't got the calendar works here. I think the NH35 is the date and the NH36 is the day date, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something like that. What is certainly interesting here, certainly from my point of view, is this the bridge plate, the main plate, and that's the balance you can see there, and it has all this cutout which is clearly there for a sort of semi-skeletonized movement. So if you wanted to show a open heart variety of this watch, this movement's going to be okay because this is the dial. You know, your dial's going to be, you can cut out your dial there and you'll be able to see the balance moving. So that's what that's there for. I'm presuming that must then be on all NH38s perhaps that has this functionality, because would they make two different versions, one for an open heart and one not? And if not, then why would it be in this watch that doesn't have an open heart? So it's just simplicity, but it's nice to see all the same. So we're going to take that cover off in just a moment and tackle what keyless works lie beneath. So let's just see what is underneath here. And right away, okay, we just have the motion works. The keyless is on the movement side. Do vaguely remember that, certainly from the, what were the other movements called? Is it the 7S3626, the ones that are in the SKX and things like that? They're all like this. So, okay, this will be fairly straightforward. Hour wheel, minute wheel, just jumped out, and then we've just got the cannon pinion. I could remove the crown in order to get to the winding pinions and the clutch, but I'm just going to leave those in until we flip the movement over, which is just going to be in just a moment, isn't it? Cannon pinion removing tool. Makes that job so simple. Yet the tool itself, if you want to buy it new, is horrendously expensive. Here we are on the business end. good practice really is to always remove the balance first. I'm a sucker, I don't. Tends to be the balance is almost the last thing off, but in this instance I will take it off first. Okay, with that out of the way and safe, we can then start concentrating on everything else. Now what I've noticed is that these big screws, or the main screws, which are the same as the balance one, the slot is a lot wider than I'm used to, and my screwdriver is a little, I don't know if I'll be able to show this really, it's just a little bit sloppy, so I can sort of rock it side to side. Hopefully I've got a shot of that. And realistically, your screwdriver end here needs to not really touch the bottom of the screw and needs to be wide enough to grip it. That's kind of how it is. So realistically, I've got to take a bit off the bottom of this screwdriver. That said, I've still got to remove this plate here first, and I think that they are just a smidgen smaller, those screws. This screw was not even finger tight. Now, one thing to say here as well is that, you know, this watch is out of warranty, so it's over 2 years old. Vario have a warranty of 2 years, but you don't know how long these movements have been around. You know, when did Seiko actually produce this movement? Before the Microbrand bought it, and has it been sitting around for years? I've seen that on some Myotas where they're pretty much new, yet you go in there and all the oil's rock hard. So, you know, this could already be 2, 3, 4 years old even, you never know. You'd expect them to turn over fast, but who knows. And thus, you know, you buy a brand new watch, even before 2 years, your warranty's up and it might be playing up, and that could well be a reason for it. This here, if you're not familiar with Seiko, and so let me just try and explain it. These fingers here can be called the magic fingers, they can be called a pull lever, but basically they kind of ratchet around this wheel. So the rotor sits here. I've taken the rotor off. The rotor plays with this. I'm not going to move it necessarily while everything's off because it will be out of position, and that runs on almost like a can, so it oscillates, and as a result these two arms, one will come and will sort of grab and the other one hold it, and that way it'll wind, but when the rotor goes the opposite way it still continues to wind. So this is the intermediate wheel that then winds. What this is called the ratchet wheel. Under there's the mainspring in the barrel, so it's just, you know, just powering it up the entire time. This is so simplified. I've seen this mechanism right back into the late 60s, so that's around the time when Seiko will have first come out with it. And if you look at Swiss watches of that era and after that era, I'm guessing this was patented at least for a while. Some of them are so overcomplicated that they get the motion from the rotor to go underneath the barrel here, and what you get is a whole chain of parts and a whole array of possibilities of things to go wrong. Whereas on here, what could go wrong? Well, these tips, or the little teeth on the end of that, they over time can wear down. I suppose this wheel could fail, but it's very unlikely. I've never seen one fail yet. And maybe this part underneath here could come loose because it should be held on just by like a little clip, which we'll find out in a moment actually. So yeah, it simplifies it and it makes it more robust and more reliable and less likely to fail. And that's possibly why, again, some of the Seikos that I work on can be 50 years old, and I can guarantee I'm the first person to go in there. They're still running, may not be running as good as they should do, but they're still running. And that is possibly a testament to this simplified part of engineering that Seiko came up with. Anyway, that's the explanation over with. We need to continue on. So now that's out, we can now power the movement down. There shouldn't be any real wind in this, to be fair, and I just need to get a screwdriver into the top of that. I'm not sure how much you're going to see of this. I need to just wind it a little bit. That is the click. Hold the click away. That's it. That's as much as the wind that was in it. So now it's like disarming a bomb. It's now completely disarmed. So we can now go ahead and remove the ratchet wheel. So far as well, this is just so reminiscent of early 70 series movements, so 7019s, 7009s, that sort of thing. Okay, there's a couple of new wheels here, which is interesting. And of course, that I forget now, of course, this is a hand wound as well movement. So this is the chain of wheels that will be then coming to that intermediary wheel to then wind the ratchet when you turn the crown. I've got the crown out at the moment. So we just need to make a note of the orientation of those, because I dare say they're going to come out. There is a little spring here. Looking at that part, I'm not sure if it comes off or not. Are we in focus there even? Right, I think I'll take the plate off first and then have a look at those. In actual fact, no, that has to come off before the plate. Or perhaps not. Right, okay, I'm learning as I talk. Okay, so that whole assembly comes away, so we'll have a look at that a little bit later on. So now we have the train of wheels. Not very decorative at all, but again, typical reminiscence of Seikos. They used to at least make them sort of gold looking rather than this plain mundane grey. But you know, when you can buy, or used to be able to buy one of these movements brand new for say £40, what are you expecting? Are you expecting it to look fantastic, or are you expecting it to just do its job? And that's what this is doing. Is that a hair or is that a scratch? That is actually a scratch, isn't it? Yep, which is unusual. I haven't done that. Certainly know that nobody else has been in here. So we can sort of see the keyless setup here as well. All looks quite, well, all looks very Seiko. Plenty of grease there, you can just see. I'm just testing it. So this possibly doesn't really need a strip down and service, but I'm just doing it to be sure. I want to be thorough so the owner gets his watch back without any more surprises. So the little bridge is off, and we can get the escape wheel, centre wheel, okay, that's all the important stuff out. We'll just have a quick look at the keyless from my point of view. So we have this top plate first, which has got the yoke on it. Oh no, it's a setting lever spring, sorry. Yes. So I think all of this is just one giant part, to be expected. Again, very Seiko. It's quite an uninspiring movement in some respects. It's practicality over aesthetic. I'm also not sure on the logic as to why you'd put a keyless works on the movement side, not the dial side, because these are things that can go slightly wrong every now and again through bad use of the crown and things. So to have to strip the watch down to this stage just to fix it just seems a bit silly. You know, it's called the keyless works because originally watches, you know, were pocket watches and they had a key, and by this point in time these sort of watches no longer had a key to wind them, so hence the keyless. Just wondering whether this is going to jump, and yes, sure it was. So I'd like to have thought I knew where the orientation was. I've got a good idea. You can see all the grease on that part. And then this one is sprung loaded into here. And then your last one's there again. Lots and lots of fresh grease. It's clear, translucent grease, which is interesting. I haven't got that type of grease. I've got Seiko S4 grease, which is a black grease, which I'll have to use. And this part might be a Rodico part. Never force anything. Don't try and pry too much either. Always run the risk of damage. Take the crown out. These will probably pop through onto the other side. Yeah. And there you go. That is the disassembly of the NH38. If it was the NH35 as promised in the title of the video, do apologise about that. We would have the day and the date mechanism, which would have been interesting to see. Maybe I can do a second video on one of those in the future just to have a look at the dial side, nothing else. Right, okay, I'll get the basket set up. We'll put this through the cleaner. Before we go to cleaning, silly me, forgot to disassemble this part. This is the train bridge, and we've just got to undo that clip and take that spring out and see what transpires on the other side. This is just like a little circlip. Sometimes they're easy, sometimes they fly, sometimes they're really blooming stubborn. That's generally on 70s stuff. I like to just get a bit of pegwood. There we go. So that one was okay. Try not to do it with a pair of tweezers. You will inevitably scratch the plate. It's your watch, doesn't matter. It's only you can see it. Anybody else's, yeah, you don't really want to do that, do you? And let's just unscrew that. And you can see I've just squashed it on a piece of Rodico for filming. I'm really interested as to what that is. It's just a little wheel. That's absolutely cacked with grease. So I'm assuming that comes out somehow. But I'll have to remove the plate from the Rodico because we had those other little reverser wheel things on the other side. So that lifts up, and there's your magic fingers. Let's just get that in focus for you. There you go. That's what they look like. And then the mystery bit for me. They all feel riveted on, to be honest, and turning it over with the Rodico, you would expect the Rodico to have pulled them out. Just a bit strange, because why would it have this cover plate here on this wheel? Is that just holding it in? I guess it must be. So I'm going to leave those in place for cleaning. If they come out, we know what they are. Okay, now it's time to rebuild the movement. Now all the parts are clean, so it's just a case of reversing what we just did from taking it apart by putting it back together again. But putting it back together is always a lot more difficult than taking it apart, that's for certain. So I've got to start with this little wheel here. It had a lot of grease on it when we took it off, and I said I've only got this black grease. It is a Seiko grease. It's called Seiko S4, so it should be good enough. And we have this little cover plate, and it's got a kind of go like this. I need to secure it with my fingers, which might make it go blurry, so let's just focus that. And on the other side, these reversal wheels didn't come out in the wash, which is good. So we now just need to secure over here the magic fingers and the post that they sit on. More of the black grease. And that's because it's a very high friction area. Not the easiest bit to film this, because you have to put the pull lever in position. We need to get it over a hole in my plate, and then we drop the wheel. Through it like so. Then I've got to turn it over, and we've got to get that little circlip in position. Now, they've been using this setup for a very long time. Some of the 7 series, like the 70009, 7019s that I work on, are over 50 years old, and they have this exact setup with this little clip and this wheel. And they don't always go on first time. You have to sort of push down on the plate to make sure it's in the right position. Get your pegboard or a bit of plastic or something, so you click it into position, lift it up a little bit. If your wheel stays in the place as it is, we've got it first time. Now, while I'm here, we have some shock jewels, and as the movement is still very new, just under the microscope they're clean, so there's no point in me taking those out. I will take out the balance jewels and show you how to do that. But on these, I'll just use my auto oiler, which is a thing like this. I'm going to put it in the hole. There's a little button. I'll lift that up, and it should drop out the right amount of oil. It's just, I'm not set up to film it, that's all. That is the top plate. Sort of almost the hardest part of the movement in many ways, because it's quite fiddly. Okay, we're on to the movement now then, and we can crack on with this quite easily. I've cheated a little bit because I've got the pinion in and the clutch in first. It is a real pain to do. Best thing to do is just put it on your bench, because you haven't got any plates at the back to support these two, and then you can get your stem in and hold them in position. I've also greased them accordingly, preparing to fit all the keyless. This is the high friction area of the movement. So this here, you can see it goes back and forth at the top end. That is your hacking lever. That's going to touch the balance and stop it when the crown's pulled out, so you can set your time. The service sheet just recommends a little bit of grease on here. Very difficult place to put a bit of grease. I'm going with that. Here's the yoke. This sits in the clutch moves it back and forth when you get it into the right position, that is. Okay. And we got the setting lever, and I pre-greased this one. Possibly a bit too much. We've seen how it's just smudged there. Now I've got to try and put it under load. With the setting lever in, I'm reading now the manual, the technical guide, just for the oiling positions, and we need a little bit of grease sort of down here. I'm going to be a bit random with it because I don't know the exact place, and here is not going to interfere with the movement, but it's a very high friction thing we're about to fit. And this is the setting lever spring. So I'm going to get 2 screws in there, and then we can click that over under pressure. I can see really that I just need to put a bit more grease over in this direction, because it's just, this is going to have pressure and it's going to move around a little bit. So I'll just put them screws in. And now we should be able to test it without the movement coming out the holder. We can see the hacking lever is also moving. As I continue with the build, I'd just like to thank my patrons for all of their support. Their names will be scrolling across the screen right now. I can't do this channel without you. It really does help to motivate me to produce videos, and I've got a lot of content coming, as they well know. If you want to become a patron, there is a link down in the description, and you get perks as a result of that. Okay, let's continue on with the build. There's a 4th wheel pinion, and it has a little notch on it there. It's very important that you put some oil on it. Here's the one main improvement. This is where the barrel goes, and it's jeweled. In all of the old movements, they're not jeweled. In the 6 series, in the 7 series, and this always creates a wobble over time, because you have metal on metal from the barrel, and it ovals that hole. Sometimes it ovals the hole on the bridge, and you can retrofit jewels to improve the vintage watches, but it's nice to finally see, after all these years, that they finally put a jewel in. I'm just going to put some 1300 in the hole. However, it wouldn't need much because it's jeweled. And then we're going to put the barrel in. Mainspring is okay. I took the lid off and had a look. Again, I don't expect it to be dirty or anything after potentially, well, it's supposed to only be 2 years old, but it could be 3 or 4, as we discussed at the start of the video. The next thing I want to do is just put some more of that black grease just here in preparation for the bridge. And the reason that's having grease is because it is then metal on the bridge plate, and it's a very high friction area. This is the click. This is what holds the wind, holds the spring tension, and she just drops in like so. Just going to freehand this. This is my fixer drop Palm. It will keep oil in position. Now, funny enough, Alex at the Watch Repair Tutorials has just done a video, extensive video on this actually. It's quite useful. He only oils the teeth and the jewels. I will put them in this thing here. It has a little mesh basket at the top, so I can treat it, and then I can take those out let them dry. Now, yes, it puts a coating on everything, but if you're just following along, I use a bit of pith wood, and then I'll put the pivots through the pith wood just to clean them up a little bit. So if there is any residue, obviously the main part, which is the pivots, are clean. Now the fun part, putting the train bridge on. And before I do that, just in case there's any fibres, and I just realised that this wheel should be in there. What am I doing? What's been fun of this channel is, you know, I don't pretend to be anything other than a hobbyist. Sometimes I could be just a bit further down the road than yourselves, but even the most professional can still make the same little hiccups. That's just part of life, isn't it? And just remembered as well that pivot there, because it rests in a jewel on the underside of the plate. The bridge plate here needs to be oiled before we put the plate on. And then, can you see the other mistake? I've obviously got the escape in the wrong place as well. This is turning into a bit of fun, isn't it? It's because it's that skeletonized bottom that's just confusing me a little bit. There we go, you got 2 mistakes for the price of 1 there. Right, let's get the bridge on. Considering I'm so used to this style of movement from Seiko, yes, I've got to question why I can make those errors. This is always the fun part, is just trying to get all the pivots lined up. Sometimes they behave, sometimes they don't. The escape wheel is out of position. Right, I'll put some screws in slightly and just give it a little fettle. It's a bit of jeopardy with the pallet fork here because of that bridge. Not giving you any room for mistakes. I think the pivot's in. I'll just double check that on my other microscope. It's definitely not one part you ever want to force. You break a pivot here very easily if it's not in place. Good magnification is the order of the day. And just hold it with your pegboard. Half a turn, quarter of a turn, whatever you can get into it. And now we can put some wine into the movement. And should be able to just flick over pallet fork. Yeah, No, it's got plenty of power. So I'm going to put the balance on now. Okay, and we're away. Look, there we go. Always reassuring. It's got a heartbeat, it's going to live again. What I'll also say about this movement, or any movement really, when you're putting the balance on, always make sure you've not got the movement hacked, because then you'll be wondering why the hell it doesn't go, and it's just because it's in hack. So there we go, that's ticking away nice and healthy. I can't oil the pallets, I've got to let them run in. So let them run for a few hours to sort of, it just basically cuts a groove through the fixer drop. Then we can oil them, and then the oil will stay in the right place. So they're a bit springy, these things. You always want to make sure you've got a bit of a grip. This one's sort of gone off the rails a little bit, hasn't it? I don't like using this digital microscope. I prefer my eyes. Okay, for those of you who don't do this hobby, just like watching videos like this, that gives you a sense of the scale that we're working at. That's a penny, pretty much the smallest coin we have here in the UK. That is the jewel that we're trying to oil the dead centre of it. And yeah, the art of watchmaking is basically making very small things look very, very big, and then they don't look as delicate and opposing. And that's what I'm going to do here, because I'm going to remove the penny and we're going to zoom in on those. And there we go. That's how you do that. And that's also many years of practice. But it's not over, because you've got to get that as much as bang on as you can, because you don't want to smudge your oil. Capillary action picks it up. Voila, there we go. Just got to get it back in the movement now, and then repeat it for the one that's on the other side. And the cannon pinion needs to be fitted, so I'm putting some 1300 there. Really, you should put some grease, but I prefer 1300. I think I can get more on. Let me drop the millet wheel in place, and before we carry on, we need to oil these three pivots here. It's my bad, there's only two. We need to do the escape and this one here. That was the grease. That's actually the wheel we put through the plate to start with. That's responsible for the transfer of power, and that just needs grease. And this is the hour wheel. And the dial side is that simple on this watch, other than the big cover. That's all we need to put on. manual is suggesting some grease on the top here. It's also suggesting some on the teeth, but I don't know how exactly I can get in there with this microscope anyway, but we'll try. So I'll just put a little bit on like that. I am going to drop some 1300 though, just in here. This is a very high friction area because this is where, if you wind the watch, this is all the mechanism that transfers your wind down to the mainspring. See, there we go. I was going to say I'm having difficulty finding the sweet spot there. And these levers we can put into place once we've put the little bridge on. So I'll just secure that slightly, and then you just move these a little bit and they should grab the teeth. Okay, plate's on, and it's made the pull levers sit in the right position, and we can just manually wind the movement now. You can kind of see how that works. And just want to put a little bit of 1300 Mobius on the wheel. So I tend to put a little bit on. Go around a few times. And slowly but surely that will coat, or should coat everything. If you're in doubt, of course, you can always put a little drop more on. And that will coat the tips of the pull levers and the wheel, and job done. So the only thing we've got to do really is that pallet fork, and for me that's going to be another day. Here we are, it is the next day for me. The watch has ran through the night, so it will have worn a little path through the pallet jewel there. So we've just got to try and oil it. This is the exit jewel. They're really difficult, and I'm on my stereoscope here, hampered by my phone to record it. As you can see, I'm dancing around everywhere. I've got a bit better technique nowadays, but it's still a bit painful to do that, trust me, and just get a tiny amount on. What happens now is I'm just going to move the pallet fork back and forth a little bit, just to try and coat some of the teeth with the oil, and then I'll repeat and put the oil on again before putting the balance back in and getting the watch going. So there we go, just moving it, like I say, with the tweezers. And then it's round 2, and it's always quite difficult to get the right amount of oil on the oiler. Less is more pretty much on this. If you put a big globule on there, it'll just coat all the teeth over the top, or even the jewel over the top as well, which can be problematic. And it happens to me quite often actually. I get it wrong. So here we go, round 2. And it barely looks like I've got any oil on, and I guess that's because I haven't. You can just see there's just a tiny spotlet, and that's basically how I oil the pallet fork. Yeah, sometimes you need to do it a few more times. Occasionally you've got to take it all off and strip it down and start again. But I just thought I'd try and include that in this video to show you how it's done. And it's now time to fit the hands. Got the hand press out, and just showing you here really kind of how I lined it up. You get so used to fitting hands. I don't know how many hands I've probably fitted over the years. Several hundred at least, maybe more. So you just get a knack for it. But I've got this Chinese copy of the version hand press, and it does exactly the same job. Just line it up. Unfortunately, I didn't lock my focus, so every time my glasses get in the way, you can see it goes out of focus, misses the glory shot. But there we go. That's the hour hand on, and just drop on the minute. Sometimes I find the minute hands are just a little bit more awkward because you've got to kind of rest them on top of the hour hand. But I just bring in the tip. There we go. Back on the press. This time I shouldn't blur it. And you just push them on. 9 times out of 10 it goes on straight. Very occasionally it's on a wobble. And here's what everybody hates, is the second hand. I'm just looking at the pinion. I can see it, and I can see the tube on the second hand, and I just drop them straight on. I rarely miss with second hands nowadays, and it almost sounds like a boast, doesn't it? But they are difficult, but when you've done enough of them, again, you just get a knack. Here it is on the timographer, and these are 30-second shots to show the positional error. I've got it running slightly fast. I prefer them like that way because then they slow down over the years. Amplitude is just a touch low in certain positions, should be over 150, but you can basically see these are only 30-second clips. Speed it up, but there's continuity, crown up, crown down, dial up, dial down. It's nice and healthy, really. So there we go. That's the end of the NH38 movement video. What do I think of them? Well, you know, they're tried and tested, aren't they? They're in every watch out there. We're all going to see these on our benches in 10-20 years time when these become a little bit more vintage, I suppose. And they'll be reliable, they'll be still running then. It's just that you can take a 7 series apart from 50 years ago and you just see exactly the same rotor, pretty much the same setup. I mean, it's tried and tested, I guess, but it just hasn't evolved that much apart from a few extra jewels to address the common problems over the years. But what do you expect? The movement is £30, £40. You're not going to get it highly decorated, you know, looking all beautiful and everything else, but it just does the job, and I found it quite interesting to have a look inside it, and I hope you did too. So yeah, if you did, leave a comment. I read every one. I try to reply to as many as I can. Please give the video a thumbs up. It really helps the algorithm, and this channel's on a little bit of a down patch at the moment, so it'll boost it for me. If you enjoyed this video and you're new here, consider subscribing. You can follow me on all the usual socials, Instagram, Facebook, so on and so forth. Check out Time Tease, my website where I sell vintage watches that I've restored, and catch me in the Facebook group, Retro and Vintage Watches and Restorations. And those loyal subscribers out there, my wife has now got a YouTube channel about our allotment where she grows vegetables and flowers and things like that. I'm going to leave a link down below. She needs all the subscribers she can get, as she's just trying to get off her feet. And as a loving husband, I can only ask for you guys to support her on my behalf, if you don't mind. I'll see you very soon in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.